Hey guys, and welcome back to the Path to Exile Podcast, episode 53, partner with Mobalytics. I am Cal Torak, and joining me per usual is Miso, Shiro, and Dead Rabbit. And if you're new here, we have our audio-only format on Apple Music and Spotify. So if you prefer to listen instead of watch, check us out over there. And if you do, please give us a rating. Helps us out a bunch. This week, we have one of the legends of the PoE community and the Twister God. We have Snoobae here. Snoobae, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. We've talked about like Twisters and how we've always been confused at how it hasn't been meta, and then just, suddenly this patch, it's just everyone's playing it. What are your thoughts on the sudden development of the Twister popularity?
Wow, man, we're just gonna jump right in, huh? Thank you for having me, by the way. Pleasure to be here. What do I think about Twister being a meta? About damn time, I guess, is my initial gut reaction. But yeah, I mean, back in 0.2, I stumbled onto it by just, experimenting with new Amazon skills, spear skills. And I think the big hype in 0.2 was actually whirling slash mobility. And so that was kind of the angle that was, if anything was going to be meta, it was going to be whirling slash stuff. And it did with like accuracy stacking and things. It wasn't until like 0.3 that Twister started getting more, I guess, notice. You guys might remember that like off meta Michael commentary about the video I made where it was like you couldn't see anything that was going on in the map, and like that went semi-viral. I reacted to his reaction thing, and it was kind of an interesting moment in the community, but it kind of fizzled out after that. Yeah, and then 0.4 just kept going, trucking along with the Temple. That was crazy Temple League. It was amazing in there. And now here it is, and suddenly everybody thinks it's, or at least it was, or is like a really good meta-worthy build, league start build even. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about the strangeness of the timing?
I don't know. It makes sense to me. Like it should have been meta at by 0.4. As like I think 0.3 was when people were really starting to like showcase its potential, especially like on Abyssal Lich. I think was the first time I saw a Twister Lich build. And Twister Lich was crazy. I remember Prada really maxing projectile speed on it, and it was crazy. So yeah, it was surprising to me that it took a little bit longer for the meta to catch on, which is always interesting to me that the Path of Exile community, what defines the meta, it often is just like what's popular, but what's popular isn't what's good or what's best. Rather, often it's just whatever it happens to be popular, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a rhyme or reason as to what ends up being popular sometimes.
It was
Right,
exactly.
Go ahead.
No, Snoop. No, guest always first. We always
Okay.
have this.
I guess kind of finishing off the thought earlier, to me it's a combination of a long time coming, plus you guys know who Guy That Dies is. A lot of people in the community know who he is now, and he basically pulled the veil on Twister as a leveling build. And then, I mean, it was just everything was off to the races at that point because people kind of saw Twister as this sort of awkward, shouldn't probably mess with it leveling skill, very problematic, hard for new players and stuff. And I mean, Guy That Dies didn't prove that it was good for new players, I would say, but he definitely proved that it was, in the hands of somebody who's technically very good at the game. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was like second to none. I mean, that's what he basically showcased, and nobody was able to compete with the sort of numbers that he was putting up with that. And so he kind of elevated himself in the community as a voice to be recognized. Whatever he was saying was the best. People believed it, and I mean, he posted the VODs to kind of prove it on his end. So, yeah, it was that combination, and then GGG showcasing it in their own footage for the upcoming league. Yeah, that was big. That combo, I think, just really, the new ascendancy showcasing a league, and then suddenly it's being looked at as a more than just a viable league starter, but as potentially one of the fastest and best.
It's kind of how the community just also works, because there's quite a few different builds that could be on a similar level. I would say, without anybody actually realizing it. Was kind of the same with Lightning Arrow for 0.2 as well. In 0.2, Lightning Arrow was already extremely good. It was really, really good in 0.2. People played, that was before Rakiadas and everything, and people mainly played Invoker Lightning Arrow a lot. and that was also the league where we did the mirror ball crafts for everything. That was when I played Invoker Lightning Arrow, and then we in 0.3, everyone suddenly was very hyped about Lightning Arrow, but on the Ranger class and everything. So, and then everyone acted like this was like a new skill and everything. So it's just how people function like that a little bit, especially in like the streamer Twitch space. People always think stuff has been elevated out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere, when at the same time, for some people that have actually been following all the builds and what's happening in the community, it's very obvious to them. And Twisters is just it's one of those. I think a lot of people just also didn't really like the playstyle on the surface level before,
Yeah.
so they never really gave it a fair shot overall. Because I'm one of those people. I just look at it. I tried it once a little bit. It's just not my playstyle, and then I kind of left it. But then when you then see what Snoo also said, when you then see someone break a world record in campaign time and show how effective it can be in endgame, then people are all of a sudden really interested in that. So it's always how it's going to be, and we will have future instances of that happening probably every single league.
Let me tell you, as a person that's been subbed to Snoobae for a while, I've been following his Twister journey the entire time. Ever since 0.2, I already knew Twisters was S tier. Nobody believed me. Everybody said I was crazy. Everybody said that I was insane for saying it was really good. But you know, true artists and true genius are never understood during their time. I can say.
Wow. Okay. We're gonna do this for 2 hours, right?
Yeah, Miso and
Like
Miso and
liaison, then. Oh my
Snoo
God.
revolutionizing the Twisters together. You two are pioneers.
I'm totally pioneering.
You
Yeah,
have a
I
very hard
definitely,
time getting
definitely.
guests.
Wait a minute. Miso, do you even play Twisters?
I don't play it in endgame, but every single league since 0.2, I've played it as my favorite twink leveling build.
So you're basically a poser then.
No. I did what Guy That Died did. I played it because he was. I played it during the campaign. I speedran campaign with basically the second coming of Guy That Dies before he got. I just play a little more low key. A little more low key. I don't like to
Without
struggle.
you're a guy that dies without the Twitter posts. So what are you saying?
I'm the guy that dies in the campaign. Yeah, I just
Okay.
die in the campaign. That's what I do.
Okay.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Without the
Literally,
guy.
okay.
We've had a really fun journey. I know you're about to wrap up and move into the PoE 1 league, but when you're looking back on the last 7 or 8 weeks of this league, Snoo, what are your thoughts on it? What would you give it as a score out of 10?
Oh, just like an all around. I definitely feel like it is the best league that we've had so far, and that has nothing to do with this current state of Twister. Getting that taming ring was ridiculous on top of everything else. For that skill, it was totally unnecessary, overkill for that archetype. But if I try to remove that from my mind, with how strong Twister was this league, new ascendancy, new items and stuff. Yeah, like looking at the end game, campaign changes, crafting changes, could try to take it all in. I don't know. I'd say probably at least, if I'm judging it like it's a finished game, maybe like 7 out of 10. But if I'm judging it like the progress that they've made, especially from last time around, I would say like 9 out of 10, if that makes sense. Yeah, it kind of depends on how you judge it, either progression curve in beta or like this is a finished game, grade it,
I think that's most people give like the in a vacuum a 9 to a 9.5, but I think I think Fub actually said the exact same thing, where he on a like surface level he gives it a 7, but like when you actually like look at it like for what the league is inside the early access, he gave it like a 9 or 9.5. And
he separated the game from the league, right? The league in a vacuum is just
okay,
very close to a 10, and then but overall the game still has some ways to go. I think that's what we all kind of agreed on, and it was kind of something that we all didn't really think about before that you kind of have to separate it a little bit, because I still run into these arguments in my head sometimes when I crash for the 4th time in an expedition, or run into the same bug for after 3 months still, and I'm still on the like, oh, this is amazing. I love this league so much. I'm 2 months in and I'm still playing 8 hours a day and I'm having fun. But these bugs and all these like little things and the performance and the crashes, and then it's like, yeah, you kind of have to separate it a little bit. It doesn't mean you're a hater or a doomer if you're saying these things, and it doesn't mean you're a glazer if you're saying the positive things. So you can separate it. So yeah, I think that's fair.
One thing that I'm really wondering is, I get that they're working on Path of Exile 1. I get that they're, steering the ship, towards Path of Exile 1 land and all hands on deck, right? But, and they're also, on the other flip side, probably bringing a pretty big update for 055 with the new event leak and everything. But I wonder what's preventing them from doing like weekly bug fixes. Like, I don't understand. It's
I'm tilted about it.
I like, that 055 is going to come with a huge list of bug fixes, right? But what's preventing them from like maybe saying we'll cut down that huge list of 100 bugs to maybe 50, and then before the league comes out, we come out with 10 every week or something?
I've been pissed about it since they stopped patching.
I'm sorry to interject, but there is like a huge bug in Expedition right now where people are actually quitting the league over it, because you can have invulnerable monsters in Expedition still right now. And
did you see that's attached to corpses, by the way?
One of the highest chances that you get those is on the 10 rune remnant. That is like permanent boots. I've had multiple people in my chat that they have said they have lost the thing that they have been chasing for like a week and stuff. I'm on day 10, by the way, of trying to get the boon. If that one bugs out, do you know that Summit 1G clip? That's me. So
H1Z1
really
dude back in the day was so rage inducing. Yeah,
I said the
bug.
exact same thing that Miso just said. I really don't get it. That is one. I get that they can't fix all of the bugs tomorrow. I get it, but
no, it doesn't make sense. Like, there's no justifying
people quit the league.
There's no justifying. There is no game development company out there that just stops development of a patch when it's fucking bad. It's got bugs and problems. Like, they were doing weekly patches every fucking week this patch, and it was amazing. And then they just stop, and they're like, well, we're done now, even though it's so bugged and problematic. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it was going so well, and I don't understand why they just think we're gonna stop bug fixing when there is critical bugs in the game. I don't really care about like the expedition juicers getting fucked over. You guys are little sweaty dorks anyway. But no, I'm kidding. They should fix the bugs, and I've been ranting about it on stream. I don't know why they stopped patching. There was a window of time there, Snoobae, where we were getting those weekly patches, and that was unprecedented in PoE. That's what at least Gazzy was saying, that he had never seen weekly patches, and they weren't just like minor tweaks. We were getting new content, we're getting balance changes, and we were getting like systematic changes to some of these end game features. What are your thoughts on just that initial phase of patching, and do you think they should just like continue to bug fix?
As far as bug fixing is concerned, I was too distracted by the weekly temple nerf patches. They just threw them in. There were 2 in one patch. It nerfed the temple and fixed some bugs at the same time. Nerf the temple, then fix some bugs. But the funny thing is, there's actually a bug in the temple now where you put a room on the architect and it never destabilizes right after they delete the lock medallion from it, and now suddenly it's easier than ever to lock an entire snake chain.
Oh, beautiful.
on the temple because of a bug, presumably. So
I think Mark's just gonna nuke
I see it too. I see
league
bugs
mechanic.
myself.
I think he's just gonna just destroy it. Like, next league, temple removed.
No, don't do that. I love it too much.
I like temple. I've been at Zeri farming a lot. It's super fun this patch. It's just like, I don't know, like there's just so many weird things with this patch. Like, some people tell me don't enter temple from maps. You get better odds at Zeri's lineage gem if you enter it from the map and stuff. And it's like, there's just all these weird like it never makes sense to me. So I don't know. Temple is a mess still. I just had Zeri Rush. You've been doing a big snaking though, right, Snoo? How'd that go this league for you?
Yeah. Well, I meant to come out with a video talking about it, and I didn't like the video that I made. after looking back on it, and I feel like I tried to bite off more than I could chew. With like, I tried to make like, here's all the different strategies you can do in the temple. Here's how you do all of them, and here's how you know do snaking. It's the most advanced one. It's the hardest. Here's how, and all this stuff. And it was just way too much stuff in there. And I decided I wanted to remake the video, focusing just on the snaking strat and letting just referring people to other videos, like you said, at Siri Farming. In the case, there's another strat with just getting the temple currencies, tier 3 smithy rooms, that kind of thing, all the Val infusers and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I actually had troubles with the temple because it's very hard to maintain a really long snake because you like run out of destabilization rooms and stuff. And then I actually bricked it accidentally in one of the most messed up ways. Like, all right, so I mean, I guess I'll explain. Almost nobody's probably going to understand this, but spy masters. You know how spy masters will delete each other, and then if the wrong one's in the chain, it transforms into a path. Yeah, so usually it's safe if you have a tier 3 spy master. You can put a tier 1 spy master randomly in the map, get a little bit of bonuses from it. Doesn't matter. It's going to destabilize next time. It's off on the lonesome self. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to disappear. And you just do that. And I did that like hundreds of times. Oh, there's a spy master. Just throw it randomly here. It'll be gone next time. Next round. Well, that's because a higher tier spy master always defeats a lower tier spy master. In case you didn't know that, that's the thing. So if you never have to go 50-50 on that. You can like get a spy master where you want, level it up with a medallion, then it will kill a new one that you put in later. Boom, it's level 3. You're done. You never have to worry about spy masters again. But if you throw down 3 level 1 spy masters at the same time in one single round, here's what can happen. Spy Master A defeats Spy Master B, and then checks for the next one. Spy Master A defeats Spy Master C, and then suddenly Spy Master A is facing off against Spy Master D, the one that you care about, and then you lose the coin flip yet again, and then boom, the brand new tier 1 Spy Master 1 just beat everybody, and yeah, temple bricked. So
That's hilarious. So it essentially
Yeah.
they just won. It won every time, leveled up, and that's
Yeah,
hilarious. Wow.
it won like I don't even know how many coin flips in a row for that to set it off like that. I probably I had to lose like 5 coin flips in a row or something.
That's
for that.
unfortunate. Wow. That's a bad way for it to brick.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
Overall, though, like, did you feel like it was worth it from the currency per hour department?
That's a hard question to answer. So when you compare it to 0.4, people are going to be memory hold with how ridiculous that was. I think we were averaging like 70 raw divine orbs per temple back then in like the most high end. And then they like, what did they do? They double or tripled the divine orb drop rate. So to kind of put things in perspective, now we're getting about on a perfectly well set up temple, maybe like 10 to 15% of the currency we had before, but even less than that if you factor in the divine orb drop rate buff. So maybe closer to around 5% of the raw currency we had before. That said, temple was like hand over fist, way too overpowered last time. It actually needed to be nerfed by a factor of like 5 to 10 to be put into alignment with everything else. So ironically, I think it is fairly well balanced. The problem is it's just super annoying to maximize and set up in a way, with or without, pseudo locking to the architect and that buggy feature and everything. You don't have to do that. You can kind of self-sustain about 2/3 to 3/4 of a temple with premium rooms set up. You can pretty much sustain that if you know what you're doing. There's a whole lot of mysterious tech involved. Like, for example, another thing is the destabilization priority looks at how many adjacent rooms are next to the room. So if you want a path to sustain and not be deleted, put it out in the open. Make the last room in that path out in the wide open, not next to anything. And it will very heavily prioritize other rooms. You create the Sim City on the side where all that stuff can be removed every round. You don't care about it. If you do that, you will naturally expand the chain that you care about over the long time, but it is a very grueling process, and there's a lot of traps and pit holes like the one I described. You can brick it in about 17 different ways. Messing with that, you can't take the tier 3 room currencies. You can't take the rewards from the alchemy labs or the corruption chambers or the sacrificial chambers, but you can from the smithies. You can't let the wrong spy master win in a duel. You can't chain the architect with a snake chain and then not have enough other rooms to destabilize because they'll start turning other rooms into path. There's so many different things you have to watch out for. So I would like to make a video on this, but it's one of those things where it was so hard to do that I just feel like for 99% of people, they're not going to care. They're not really going to want it. If they knew everything I knew about it, they'd be like, yeah, F that. That's not worth it.
Yeah.
Wait,
but I am
you
that
saying-
1% of players who's like, yes, let's do it.
Are you saying if they only had a fraction of your knowledge on Temple, they could? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. People keep
Also-
making like almost like a meme about that. Yeah.
A little bit. There is also a bug in Temple, by the way, because I've been only at Siri rushing since we were on the topic
Yeah.
of bugs. I've only been at Siri rushing because I think it is. I think it's by far the best. I saw RS Fearless and I saw you do the whole Temple setup and everything. And once you get it set up, it's for sure like to kind of get the TLDR of what you say. Once you set it up, it's kind of worth, but the setup, is it worth it? And then most people will just gravitate towards it Siri rushing. And there is a bug in the Temple right now, mostly seen in Siri rushing, where you're not being able to place any more tiles on the top half.
Oh, dude, that
rules
is
at
happened to
all.
me
So
twice this league.
that's another one that has been in there for 6 weeks now. So
insane.
yeah, Temple is. I think it's Siri rushing, especially this league, also is awesome, and it's probably one of the best strategies right now. But yeah, that's also held back a little bit with the bug. I would kind of be interested in doing like a real Temple setup again, and I was even sent like Snoo's Temple setup multiple times on my stream already. But I don't know. I kind of had the exact same reaction that you just said. Most people will have, of like, I don't know if I want to get into that. And then I just went with Expedition.
Until Temple is account wide or whatever, league wide or whatever, I can never build a big temple. I just make too many characters, and when you make a new character, it completely wipes it. So I won't say I won't ever want to do it, but it's just as of right now, there's no way I'm sitting on one character long enough to build a real temple. Because like, how many days do you think it takes you to get your temple to like 75 rooms, Snoo? A lot. A lot.
You know, going from one room to 50 is like pretty fast, actually. But going from 50 to 60 is a very long time. And going from 60 to 70 is like, there goes your week kind of thing. Like
Right.
you're just, it's very slow. There's so much RNG involved. And yeah, to speak on what Rabbit said, one of the things I wanted to say in the previous video is that I think of the different strategies. That Siri farming is kind of like Temple for beginners, but that doesn't mean it's the worst strat. It could even be the most lucrative strat, actually. But just in terms of like concept and what it takes to pull it off, the Siri strategy to min-max that is the easiest one to do, followed by focusing on tier 3 room currencies, followed by trying to do like a massive snake chaining strategy. And there is, I'd be hard pressed to say one strat is way better than the other currency wise. I don't even really know because I haven't messed with all 3 different strats and tried to test it that way. It would just be too much work to do that. But yeah, I basically lived in the temple for the past 6 weeks, and people wonder why are you not doing anything else? Why are you not farming Expedition or whatever? And I did it for one day, and I was actually a little bit disappointed by how much loot was dropping. It wasn't quite as good as I thought it would be, which kind of put me back on my heels a little on thinking, well, maybe the temple is better than I realized it is.
I think
Yeah.
Even just doing the bum rushing of Atziri, I think Temple is so good. The currency from it is just so well, and I don't know. It's of all of the things you can do in the game, getting 60 crystals is very easy to do. There's just so many travel maps. Like there's so many objectives you want to path to, whether it's cities, whether it's lineage maps, whether it's expedition logbooks. I don't know. I feel like Temple is very good. Would you say it's your like? I mean, obviously you can't predict the future. We don't know what league mechanics are coming, but would you say you like Temple enough to where it'd be like your main league mechanic long term? Do you enjoy building the temple, or are you just kind of in like a science mode?
Well, buried in that question, there's a really good question buried in that question, and that is, if you could like design a league mechanic, what would be your favorite kind of league mechanic? And mine would be one with like maximum amount of effort, maximum delayed gratification, maximum gains out of it. So that's what made the temple so great in my mind, is that it was just ruthlessly hard to set up and time consuming to do so. But in theory, in an ARPG, if an ARPG is well balanced, the game should dictate that such a mechanic would yield the most returns. If you go, that many miles to get, to the end, and that's what it takes. And all along the way, it's kind of like mediocre until you get there. It really has to be the best mechanic in the game, and or if you're going to have a mechanic like that. And I'm really glad something like that exists. I think PoE 1 has some similar things, like the betrayal mechanic there, and Delve obviously is an example of such a mechanic where it just takes forever to really get huge dividends out of it. So I really like the game design from that standpoint. I had like a video where I came up with like 10 different ideas to fix a temple, and 0 of 10 were implemented, except one of the 10 was implemented mid-league, and that's the removal of the lock medallion, the effective removal of the lock medallion. That was actually a good change for the temple. Some people, I'm sure, hated it, but as far as the concept of the league mechanic, the way it's designed, when you think of it intuitively, such a mechanic shouldn't exist in there. You shouldn't be able to simultaneously lock rooms while the mechanic demands a certain percentage of the room be destabilized. It makes way more sense for them to balance it around the latter, where it would be destabilized. And they can change the destabilization rate. They can make it more forgiving in the future, and hopefully they do that. But a lot of adjustments need to be made on the mechanic. I love it conceptually, but the current implementation of it is it's really brutal, especially after 0.4 and what that was like. That it's really jarring.
If you take what you just said for the in that last section, and you just put expedition in there, it would be the same thing in my opinion. I think expedition has the same vibe to it right now. It's in a concept, it's an amazing mechanic, even though there's like two very clear approaches to league mechanics, and it's the brain of breach, kill monsters, get loot type stuff, and then there is the expedition and temple type stuff, and I think both are great and serve a specific type of player. But especially, I think the ones like temple and expedition still have a little bit of ways to go when it comes to adjusting those, because I've had the exact same process of what I was saying about expedition the past couple of days, and that what Snoo just said about temple. It's like I kind of enjoy this in concept, and I would really enjoy this in concept when these things change about it. And yeah, I guess that's hopefully gonna be on the docket for the next one. I really hope that they're not just like keep adding, and then they kind of forget, because that feels a little bit what happened with Temple, because they added a whole new league mechanic that needed a lot of power to then I don't know, fix again, or it needed a lot of attention, and then I don't know, Temple needed probably a little bit attention as well. So let's hope they not just add a third one now, and then those two get left behind a little bit, and then
Well, I got a question for you guys then. Since I think you guys will like this question, do you think that GGG should focus more on trying to make every league mechanic it currently has better, or do you think they should kind of focus more on, more quantity over quality, where they just keep implementing a new league mechanic every time, and people are just kind of chasing that new rush every time, and it's the new flavor of the season, it's the best league mechanic because it's the new one, it's probably the most lucrative one, and they tone it down the league after, and we just keep getting a new one every time, because that's kind of how PoE 1 works, actually? Or do you think we should have a somewhat small consolidated group of mechanics, and they're just fantastically balanced with one another? They each drop raw loot at a certain degree, but then they each have their own exclusive drops, and it's just somehow magically in perfect balance. But there's not that many choices of things you could do. If you guys had to choose like one avenue or the other, which one do you think they should focus on?
The first one, the PoE 1 approach, just quantity. I don't think what you just described, the second one, a perfect balance, a perfect economy between 5 of these things or whatever, that is not even achievable. But in this dream world where it was, let's just say it is, I think I would still prefer quantity over quality. I think one of the coolest thing about PoE 1 is there are builds that are designed to that specialize with specific mechanics and farms, and I think that's freaking cool. And that only happens because there's just a wide variety of builds, but also a wide variety of mechanics that have different demands of what they require. I think that's more fun if I had to choose one or the other. What about you, Miso? You haven't talked like except for once this podcast.
I mean, yeah, not really big on Temple. I don't know if that was obvious, but
Excuse me, where's my glaze? Where's my glaze, sir? Sir?
Sorry, ran out. But I'd say that I'm definitely on the same boat. I am more of a fan of new league mechanics as opposed to like just having a small subsection of like very, very well tuned, well balanced quote unquote league mechanics. Because like it's always going to be where, and this is the beauty of Path of Exile 1, I feel. It's like there's a league mechanic that everybody likes for the most part. Like some people hate Delve, some people love it, some people hate, I don't know, freaking Adziri
Harvest.
Temple
Harvest
or
sucks.
Harvest, whatever, right? I love Harvest. I think Harvest is super fun. I could do Harvest every single league. Like, and that's the beauty of the game, is that there's so much stuff in the game, so much content, that there's something for everybody. And if we were to cut it down to only a couple of them every single league and being the same ones every single league, I think that would be quite boring. And it goes back to what Jonathan said before about how they have to have a new league mechanic every single league, or else people just don't come. I think that's pretty important. But I will say that there was an idea I had at one point, and I don't know how well it would work, but I was saying that because one of the things about Path of Exile 1 is that there's so much content that sometimes it feels like a very overwhelming for a new player to come in, right? And that's kind of inevitable. And Path of Exile 2 eventually is probably going to get to that point as well. And the hope is that, I think one of the hopes for Path of Exile 2 was that it would be that more like friendly game with a little bit less of a, I guess, barrier to entry compared to Path of Exile 1. So it's like, how do you keep adding more content without making it so that there's just so much content that it feels very overwhelming to come in? And I was thinking like maybe there could be like a middle ground. And again, this probably doesn't work and might not be a great idea. I actually pitched it and Pet Chat was like, no, I hate this idea. But making it so that there's a rotation. So there's only 5 league mechanics every single league. Now you have the new league mechanic being one of them, and the rest of the 4 are just selected from the pool at that league. So maybe that league you're not going to have Breach, or you're not going to have Delhi, but you're going to have, these 4 other ones. So it's like, Ritual, Expedition, something like Harvest, and then Settlers, right? The King's March. And that would be your 5. And then the new one, that would be your 5. Now, that not only changes up how you want to be farming, but it also changes up build variety and build diversity, because you're missing uniques that are from certain league mechanics. So certain builds might not be viable that league, but other builds might be because of the certain thing. And you, as a build creator, you need to be very creative about what things you do to kind of make a certain build work with the amount of resources you have. I don't know. People hated it when I suggested that idea, but I think it'd be
I hate it
interesting.
too, by the way.
I'm with your chat on this one.
Yeah, you're cooked. It's
also Miso. Like I don't hate the concept once again. But I would compare it to you can't win with a rotation like that, because there's always the people screaming and crying over the mechanic that they love being gone for that league is always going to be on the forefront.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it would work.
I'd compare it to Counter-Strike. There's a competitive map pool in Counter-Strike where like it means that all the tournaments and everything in Counter-Strike, they have like a specific map pool. And every once in a while, Valve changes or rotates out one map. And 80% of the community probably just loves it because no one is playing that map and everyone hates it. But the outcry of those 20%, I'm telling you, it is. It makes it seem like they just did the worst patch of all time. So it would be the same, but even worse in PvE.
Oh, 100%. There's a reason why my community hates the idea, but it's like part of me trying to think about like how they can make the game sustainable long time without like completely making the barrier of entry too high every single, eventually, right? So that was just kind of part of the thought process.
Well, there is a way around
Yeah.
that. It's whenever you get to that point, you start PoE 3. And then you just like start, from 5 mechanics, and then whenever it gets bloated, you start PoE 4. So there is a cycle that will make that work a little bit better.
That's a game developer speaking. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I got a follow-up question. Would you rather them focus on bringing out new content, new mechanic every league, or perfect the game with no bugs? No bugs.
So, like for me, the entire early access, I have been bitching that they don't treat it like an early access. That's how they should have treated the last 5 leagues. Like that's how they should have been trying to fix the bugs and making this game as polished. And they are doing that. If you compare 0.5 to 0.1, it is so much more polished. But I don't know, just like literally to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, right? A little bitty crash out, like. Why aren't they bug fixing still now? Like they should be doing that. That should be their priority. So, by the way, with the expedition bug, I saw on Reddit. I don't know if this is true. Apparently, the immunity mob is because of corpses, and if you use something that explodes corpses, it gets rid of the immune mob.
That's why I apparently didn't have that bug, because people keep coming into my stream and asking, why are you not encountering the bug? And I haven't had it in like 3 days. That's because I'm freezing everything. Everything that I kill has been frozen, I think.
Okay, that makes
That's
sense.
Probably
yeah,
it.
I
That's
saw
probably
someone
why.
if you just put a shout into your build and you can just shout to explode corpses. Yeah. That's like what people are doing right now. I don't know if that's valid or not, but it sounds like it, I guess. So just throwing that out there.
On another
or
note,
you could just play Twister because we freeze everything. And I didn't encounter that bug when I played Expedition my one day.
And be blind within. Snoo didn't wear glasses before 0.5, by the way. If you didn't know, guys, he didn't wear glasses before. He had these now as prescription because he's been playing Twisters for 7 weeks.
Yeah, that's the most common comment in my chat is, how do you play this build without going blind? Or how do you play this build without your computer blowing up? It's like one of those two variations of a comment.
I have a question for you, Snoo.
And what's the answer? Sorry.
I don't know. I just keep rolling with the punches. I have like a 3070 graphics card. I have like an 8-year-old PC. It's running me remarkably well. I keep the room air conditioned really well, so the room never gets warm, too hot. That might help a little, but I don't know. And then I have brown eyes, not blue eyes, so that helps a lot with not going blind.
Oh, okay.
I guess. That's what my mom would say.
My curiosity about your thoughts on Expedition and the Boons. I had an awful experience. Like I haven't really messed with Expedition because I had an awful first experience with it this league. My first time trying to do Expedition, I was doing it on a Culling Strike build, and Ward minions are like essentially immune to Culling Strike. So it was just like my build was freaking brick versus Expedition. So I've been like salty about Expedition since then, and I've gotten and they're not global as well. So as someone who makes multiple characters, spending 10 days to get one of those boons for a player power buff that doesn't copy over to my other characters, it sucks.
Oh, it's just me that's spending 10 days.
Well, I think it's a lot of people spending 10 days on farming those boons. I think a lot.
Rake yesterday went into Expedition because he said like, oh, let's get a boon before Rabbit. 60 minutes to get 2.
Really? What?
How's that a good system? How's that a good system that it takes me 10 days, 8 hours a day, and some guy goes in there and gets 2 in 60 minutes?
I think that's called justice or karma.
I think you're just salty, Rabbit. I think it's just
yes,
salty.
I am. Like, I'm not hiding the fact that I'm salty.
I mean, you should be salty. It's a shit system. Why would you put that? Not only is it player power behind insert RNG, but it's 4 instances of player power that you're weighing against a 300 divine item that most new players are going to take the 300 divine item. So, anyway, Stu, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. Clearly, we have ours.
Since this is like the major topic about the boons, I guess I'll just insert in this moment that I played Expedition for 1 day. I let my chat tell me how to even do it. I actually literally didn't research like how to juice it up max. And so it was kind of fun. I let my chat tell me. It was just backwards from normal. Usually I'm telling my chat how to do something. And so on my 5th expedition ever, grand expedition ever, I got the 10 spirit boon. and then I raided Rabbit like
leaves the
30
room.
minutes later. And he wanted me to unraid him, but we didn't know how to do that. So we just stayed there. We just stayed and gave him hell for it, I guess. So I don't know. Now he's gone. So I didn't want to open that wound again right here in front of him, but since he just keep going on and on about it, and you ask him about expedition, I mean that's
Yeah.
the last thing I was thinking about.
Right.
I didn't, and the funny thing is, I didn't even care about it. I'm not even utilizing that boon at all. The other 2 boons
Rub
would have
it
been
in.
better. Yeah, I'm not even like it's wasted. I would just give him my 10 spirit if I could, but I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah, I would too. If I had 10 spirit to give you Rabbit, I would. But
Maybe I should start
I don't want
farming
your
expedition
fucking
tonight.
spirit.
Maybe I should start farming expedition tonight. I mean, knowing my RNG, it's definitely not going to get it. I'm definitely not going to get the boon tonight. But imagine, I just got my voices earlier tonight. After 342 runs. So maybe karma will come back and
Wait,
it'll give it to me.
342?
Yeah, 342.
I got mine on 324. Coincidence?
Coincidence.
I
So
I don't
I
think
take
so.
it like, all right. So serious question is like, so Rabbit dealing with like extreme amounts of FOMO here because he's a perfectionist and he wants to have his character totally done, every single thing he possibly have. This actually is a major issue that a lot of players feel, myself kind of included, generally speaking. And I don't know, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Let's see. So is the trend that they're going to introduce a new league mechanic and gatekeep an ultra RNG permanent character buff behind that brand new mechanic? If they're going to do that every single league, I think there's probably going to be hell to pay in the long run for that. So I don't really see it as being a good thing in the long run. This one time, it's like whatever, again, beta testing, I guess. But I think overall, I feel like it's bad game design. It's way too RNG like. We have the permanent buffs and we can get them like the weapons at points. It's a deterministic way to get them. They're just part of the campaign, do the quest, and you get it, and you permanently buff your character. So I assume you guys are probably on the same page as me. We know Rabbit is for sure, not wanting to deal with that extreme chase just for a permanent character buff. It's one thing to get like a super nice item you can trade for, crazy RNG for that, but a permanent character buff that's soulbound like that, I don't know. That's pretty rough.
I actually kind of like the idea of those things existing in the end game beyond the campaign, like being a little side quest. It's just this one is as brutal of an implementation as it can be because you're choosing between 4 of them, and it's weighted behind. You're also Alder's Legacy, which it's just such an absurd choice. It's like the weirdest execution for. It's genuinely just bad design. That's the only thing I can call it. I can't defend a decision behind it. I do want to see more of it. I think I think the better direction to go is the stuff where like Karn sacrificed his level 100 to get us all the +1 passives. Like that is that's way cooler and way more fun than this. So I hope they do more of that, in my opinion.
And I've been always, especially on this podcast and in general, like I'm from Diablo 2. I love chase. I love chase items. I love in general chase. This is like the main reason why I like ARPGs this much, because I like chasing stuff, and I like even if it takes 10 days or whatever. I don't care, but I don't know. This one felt. I felt especially salty about this one so far, so I don't know. But I think in theory, they are doing a great job of introducing more of these chase things into the game. We just need to find a balance about them. I think that's in general that's amazing. I don't think we were gonna have the boons again in Expedition because of the feedback, but in theory, I love it, and I really like that GGG is being I don't know what the word is, not cowards,
Yeah, they're taking risks.
like being brave, and if putting this out there and having like a little bit of backlash. So I wish and I know that they are gonna continue that way. So I like Chase, but 10 days in, it feels feels a little bit bad right now.
I think the big difference between this type of chase and another like other types of chase that have existed is that there's no way to get it other than by RNGing into it. In for any other thing, right? Headhunter, Mage Blood, Runic Fork, right? The Rune Seeker's Call, everything, right? You can go and try to farm it. Like the mana rune, a lot of people are having really hard time farming it. But the difference is that you can buy those things. You could buy the thing that comes out of it, right? But for these boons, you have to farm it. And I think that's the biggest difference. Like imagine if the 10 like socket or 10 rune like thing, right? It spits out a rune or an item that you can go and trade in to an NPC for the thing, and you could sell it. You could sell it to another player. Like instead of being like, okay, well, I have to find this runic thing with the 10 sockets. Every time I get the 10 sockets, I can sell it. And then if somebody doesn't want to do the whole farm, they can spend however much money that thing is worth to go and get that. I think that's like the biggest difference between this type of chase and the type of chase that we're all very used to that we're okay with.
Well, I'm actually in agreement with you guys, but as for a fun devil's advocate counter argument, if I'm trying to imagine if I was a developer, what I would say to counter this, and I think I have to imagine that what they're thinking in their head is their justification for implementing it this way. They would say something to the effect of 10 spirit, 1 extra passive point, and sorry, what was the other thing again? Actually forgetting how
5%
5%
life
mana
mana.
and
Yeah.
life.
Five
all
all
res.
res. 5 all res.
Yeah.
These are not necessary for your characters to succeed. These are such tiny, small, infinitesimally small factor in a build. You don't need these, and so they're just icing on the cake. You're supposed to think of it as, oh, it's this cool little chase thing. If you get it, you get it. Great. If you don't, you don't. Like if you want to chase it, fine, do it. But there's no reason to be upset about it because it's such a tiny power boost for what it gives. Now, that's not actually the way I think about it, but I have to assume that somebody on the other end of the spectrum would probably argue it in favor of it to that, with that kind of argument. So I don't know, just throw that on the floor and you guys let me know what you think about that.
That's very fair.
That's the
You're
only
right
reason
that it
why
is-
I'm not up in arms about it, right?
Yeah, I
That's
don't
the
give a
only
fuck
reason
about
why
it.
I don't really care. Like there are people
Yeah.
who are going to care about it, and there are people who
Yes.
are chasing it and just can't get it, and they want it, or maybe they're saying like that 10 spirit is going to make my build like complete, but they just can't get it, and
It's
it would be-
principle.
yeah.
It's principle. It could be very minute. I don't think, for example, +1 or +1 passive point and spirit is I think it's not that small, especially for people that are, as Snoo already kind of called it a little bit. I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, or I don't know. People have said it's not OCD, guys. It just
Almost.
it's principle. It's in the game. I want it. you know.
No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, I do feel the pull. I do feel the FOMO from it. It's just, I think Snoobae said the devil's advocate argument best, where, none of my characters have felt weak without those things. So, it's ultimately fine. Looping back to the upcoming PoE 1 League, I think Miso's playing in it. Rabbit and I don't think Rabbit's playing in it, correct? You're not playing
What?
PoE 1, Rabbit? You're not playing
Nope.
PoE 1? What are your thoughts on this development cycle so far, Snoobae? We're finally sinking into this every 4.5-ish months of this PoE 1, PoE 2 cycle. Some content creators say they do feel PoE 1 burnout. You're starting to see some creators like Gazzy starting to prefer PoE 2 over PoE 1 in some instances. Where are you at in this? Are you just like, is this your heaven? Are you like Captain Lance, where this is just like you're absolutely peak and you're not burnout at all? Where are you at on this spectrum?
Before we go into, funny enough, Captain Lance stopped playing Path of Exile 2 way before anybody else did, which is
True.
pretty funny.
He went back to PoE 1. Like, he was one of the few creators that went back to PoE 1, yeah.
And he went to, what was it called? Age of Empires for a little bit too.
He was doing a tournament. So
Yeah.
was like hosting
But he
and doing
stopped playing PoE 2 even before that, which was I don't ever
super
know.
early.
Yeah, I didn't really ever ask him why or ever figure out why. Anybody know why he stopped playing so early?
Nope, I didn't hear.
Most people played PoE2 a long time this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as far as a player, I guess I don't know. I feel like I would have a very different answer depending on whether I'm thinking about myself as a content creator or as a player, because I don't really think of myself as one and the same. I would approach the game differently. I think as a player, like I tend to play the game the way I want to play it, and then try to build content around that, based on that. But I definitely go out of my way to like do extra work in the game to make content, and so I feel like as a content creator, but also, there's the making money aspect of it. You have more opportunity to make money the more times there is. So more likely to get burned out as a content creator, I think, in trying to flip flop constantly between the two games. But as a player, less likely. So I like playing PoE, PoE 1, PoE 2, like all the time. I don't have like any other games that I really want to play or any other. Like I have some other hobbies I'll do every now and then, but as far as the gold standard hobby, it's playing this game or one of the two games. And I also think, kind of like Gazzy, that PoE 2 is, obviously the future. And I don't know if PoE 1 is going to be around forever. I'm not going to dare even try to ask that question, but I think it already is pushing on the door of being the better game. It's already transitioning into that. And it's pretty obvious to anyone who actually likes PoE 2 and knows PoE 1. Just about everyone, if they're being honest with themselves, will say, yeah, this is pretty obviously going to be a better game in a very short time span, if not already there. I think it's going to be one of those things where it will happen and it'll pass people by, and then they'll retrospectively realize, this game was I actually liked this game more than the old game, like even a year ago. Just now realizing it. I think that's going to be a lot of people.
Kind of crazy how fast the narrative switched on that, because I remember 0.2 and 0.3. I don't know, even 0.4 still, and 0.5 switched the narrative on that real quick. There have people really. I wouldn't call it flip flop. People are always entitled to their own opinions, and I think they are very valid, and everyone should like what they like. But the community sentiment took a real big turn with the release of 0.5.
I think
The
that's
weird
just
thing about.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the weird thing about it is what most people don't take into account is PoE 1 is a much harder game than PoE 2. It's actually significantly harder. It's
Mhm.
harder to break into as a newer player, and it's legitimately harder. If you have equal skill in both games, you will struggle way more in PoE 1 than PoE 2, regardless of what you're trying to do. Even if you have all the knowledge in the world, you still will, because the game is just more punishing. The monsters are harder, the demand's higher, the bosses have way more health, and the min-max requirement to dominate the content is way stricter in that game. You have much more freedom to play around, mess around in PoE 2. It's way easier to build like a glass cannon in PoE 2 and just kind of stomp on the content even still. Like I'm just now messing around with like basically what I did right now, because I'm being reminded of this. I set up a standard character in PoE 1 to kind of test my own League starter in advance of League start. Like I mocked up gear for like a day 2 economy situation. And it's fresh in my memory how strong my Twister build is on day 2 in PoE 2, and I know like what I can do content wise with that. My character is capable of doing the content I want to do in the standard league, but it still gets slapped around a bit. Like I have to actually lock in, focus on what I'm doing, pay attention to how I'm maneuvering, actually dodge like a lot of mechanics, and I have to be a little bit cautious about how I roll maps, not to make them outrageously rippy. These are all things I don't have to do in PoE 2. I can just kind of breeze through it and just flow state right off the bat in PoE 2. And that's good in a way. Like that's what a lot of people want. But the two games are actually very different. It's not just like one game is better than another. It kind of depends on your pain threshold, like what kind of challenge you want to seek, and as well as other weird variables like how hard it is to break into it if you were already a veteran for 10 years, 10,000 hours versus 1,000 hours. It's a big difference between those two players. So there's just so many variables to consider on that.
Yeah. I've always disagreed with the statement that the two games are merging into one, because it's never felt that or looked that way. Like, they just have a very different feel and approach. So I agree with you there. What were you going to say earlier, Miso?
I don't even remember at this point.
Well, I want to go back to what you said earlier, Snoo, because I had this conversation on stream the other day. You said earlier that you don't really like playing any other games, and PoE 2 and my enjoyment for it has started to make me not enjoy other games. There's just a level of creativity that is unique to Path of Exile, and the way I described it on stream was, in other games, if I'm like, let's say I'm playing World of Warcraft, I'm doing a mage and I want to do like a dungeon or something, I want to do an AoE farm in it, I have to ask myself, can I do this farm? I have to ask, can I do this? In every other game, you're asking, does the game allow me to do something? In Path of Exile, I never ask, can I do this? It's, how can I do this? There is just a level of enjoyment from a creative perspective that has ruined other games for me, where I can only like just casually enjoy them now. I can only and truly enjoy Path of Exile 2, and I think it's that creative freedom that that Path of Exile as a genre has created, where I don't think the developers are ever, again, back to Blizzard, I'm a big former Blizzard gamer. Blizzard is always, if you're playing the game a way that they don't want you to play, they will stop you from playing it that way. Where I know, like, sometimes GGG will nerf you and deny you from doing stuff, but often does feel like times when GGG sees the players doing something or doing something weird or different, they're often trying to enable that. And it's just such a different feel and approach to the game from just any other game that I play. And I don't know, that what you said earlier resonated with me, and that's like something that's very recently dawned on me. It's like, I don't enjoy other games anymore, and it's because of just how expressive PoE can be. And I don't know if that's what you feel.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
This sentiment has been echoed in my chat as well, because I've mentioned this as well, and there's a few more people that have also said that. I guess it has to do with the fact that most of us and most of the people that are in our chat rooms or whatever are ARPG players. So yeah, it is something. It is an effect for sure.
I'll give you guys a fun little story. So this will be kind of like a D4 bad moment, although it's actually D3 bad,
Oh, we
not
love
D4
those.
bad in this case. So the hypest I have ever been for an ARPG was whenever Diablo 3 was announced, and they were showcasing the new monk class, and it was like this crazy Fist of Fury thing that had like multiple different combo generators, and it looked insane, and you had like fast wielding daggers and stuff, and they allowed you to play like Act 1, and I must have theory crafted endlessly on ideas that for which I couldn't even technically theory craft. It was just concept theory crafting. I was like, all right, so if I punch one way with one hand and then do another skill on the other hand, it's going to, like, these two are going to somehow buff each other, and then we have a third attack, and then you're going to wind up this crazy spender off of 3 separate different generator attacks. It's going to be so hard to do, but it's going to be amazing because they're going to, clearly the game design is set up in a way where they're going to make it so you just sync all this stuff up. Is going to be this massive, like, Kamehameha moment thing out of the monk, basically. And in the end, when they released the game, you know what synergies there were between, like, mixing and matching like a martial artist style combo? It was one passive point that said you get 8% increased damage for every different type of skill you've used recently. That was the sum total of, like, synergies between setting up this insane martial artist monk class with all these different amazing looking rapid attacking skills. It felt so good to execute on them. It was really tough to do. But, like, where's the game design to encourage players to do that? How do you design such a cool class and not allow for all the potential on that? And I was so let down. I was so incredibly. I still enjoyed Diablo 3 when it came out, but I remember just thinking to myself, like, I'm not a developer, but my God, how do you drop the ball that hard? How do you make a character that looks and feels like this and not allow players to take advantage of that? It makes no sense. And then later on, fast forward several years later, we have pretty much every class in PoE has things along those lines. It just completely dwarfs all the shortcomings that I had experienced in the Diablo games leading up to then. They have a special place in my heart, of course, but yeah, once I switched from the Diablo franchise to PoE franchise, I was not going back. That's pretty much just the way it is.
I remember that little demo that they gave for Diablo 3 where you just had Act 1. I played so
I don't even
many
think it was all of
hours.
Act 1. It was just Leoric,
It was
right?
it was just
half
up
of Act
until
1.
Leoric, and I
Yeah.
played that so much.
Same.
I played it so much. It was crazy.
Yeah.
D3, the D3 hype was next level.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had what
Wasn't
you
it-
just described. Go ahead.
Wasn't it the most selling game at one point? Like, didn't it break some kind of record as the most sales within a certain time frame or something? The hype
Probably.
was insanely big. It also kind of started streaming, in my opinion, just from my experience. It was the first time I actually watched like Twitch streams and stuff. So yeah, D3 was
Well, StarCraft and League of Legends were
huge.
around at that point, so streaming was
yeah.
already kind of.
It just
off,
like
but-
from my personal experience, it was like I don't know, I was 17 years
Oh
old.
yeah,
or
I mean there was a
something, and then-
lot of big D3 streamers.
I think that was around when Twitch started being a thing too, because before it was Justin
Yeah.
TV. I remember watching that in
TV,
high
yeah.
school, and yeah.
That's when Kriparian blew up
immediately-
with the
Yeah,
hardcore
exactly.
stuff.
That's
Yep.
who I watched.
It's where Crypt
That's who I
blew
watched.
up. Alkazer blew up there too. Like
Mhm.
a lot of our,
Yeah.
the
Shit,
ARPG
Kongor.
goats.
I know Conger from D3.
Yep. We don't talk
Yeah, a
about
lot of
the
goats.
incident, but
I
Huh?
don't know what you're talking about.
I don't.
I'm missing the reference.
I was just immediately disappointed with Diablo 3. I remember because I expected something else. I immediately was disappointed just by the look. They when it came out, I still played the hell out of it and I really enjoyed it. But I was just on the look, I was immediately disappointed because it had such a comic-y, non-grimy, non-brutal look. Because that was the Diablo franchise for me. I played Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 before that, and then Diablo 3 was the break in for me when it came
That
to
cycle.
just the vibe and style of it. And it continued in Diablo 4. Diablo 4 still to me looks like, I don't know, it looks like a mobile game to me. I don't.
Well, what
It might just be
Snoobae
me.
just described with Diablo 3 was my experience with Diablo 4. Like, I went into it at, like, oh my god, look at all these cool toys, all these... I posted a video on my channel shitting all over Diablo 4. I cannot believe the design of those classes and that passive tree. Like, I don't
The
wanna
same
get into it.
design philosophy carried over from Diablo 3
Yes.
to Diablo 4.
It's worse than Diablo 4, in my opinion. Like, they amplified it. They double downed on it. Like, it's just... I had a bad time playing D4.
Someone in my chat the other day said, I thought that was a perfect description, like baby's first ARPG or something. It's like the
Oh yeah, for sure. That's
it's
why it's
just
popular.
like the put the circle into the circle, put the square into the square type deal. That's
No,
how
I do. I
understand it.
like,
and that's why
I
PoE
didn't do
will
it.
always be better.
I heard Mephisto on the hardest difficulty was actually a challenging fight, but I never pushed that far.
Yeah.
So
Well, 2 seasons ago,
I
it
mean,
was
it goes
actually
to
looking
good.
pretty good. It was looking like maybe they were finally fixing things, but then this last season apparently was terrible for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I saw Rex on stream.
Yeah, he was not
Well,
happy.
wait, has there been
talking-
another season since the launch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been another
okay,
season.
I was like, what do you mean last season? What you mean launch? I was confused. Okay, there's another
the
season.
most
Okay.
current
There's another season since not
didn't know
launch,
that.
but it was the one that we were playing in, the one where they added Mephisto and they added the Paladin or no Warlock?
Warlock.
No, Paladin.
Yeah.
Paladin, I think. No, was it Warlock? It was Warlock. Yeah, Warlock.
Gotcha.
Well, we often complain about, like, in PoE 2 the game's too easy, right? The bosses are way too easy. But one of the nice things about developing a lame game is that it's much easier to balance, because if you pigeonhole people and only playing the build a certain way, you know exactly how much life the boss needs because there's only you can very easily understand the cap of damage that can be dealt in this game with this build. And so you don't have to, constantly look over your shoulder thinking, oh, who's coming out with the next absolutely broken build that none of us developers could even imagine. And that's one of the upsides to making a game that easy or that simple. So I never really get too up in arms about like the current state of balance in a Path of Exile game because I just assume that it's like an impossible task to somehow, if this isn't even factoring in that there are newer players who have skill gap issues and don't even know how to make a build. Just taking into account the unforeseen crazy build that you can't even anticipate, it is an inevitable thing where every single league there will come a build or a multitude of builds that will utterly annihilate the hardest content in the game, turn it into a joke, and then every one of us will look back and be like, why do they make this game so easy? That's just going to happen every single league.
Yeah.
Because it's not a lame game.
Oh, no, it's absolutely not a late game. And to your points about the balance, I cannot imagine balancing like a campaign and an end game while you're still actively developing weapons and classes that are missing from the game. Like every patch you're having to rebalance so much. You add like 20 new support gems, throws out the entire balance of so many skills and stuff. Yeah, a mechanic like Ward, there goes all the balance you just did. Like you have to get like a weird baseline, but the range of balance around that baseline is just going to be so have so much variance that it would take. I mean, look at PoE 1. Like there's no world you're getting it balanced like to like a perfect balance sense. Yeah, I agree.
GG loves
If they
giving
give the
themselves
player
more work.
Yeah, that's what they do, and they love giving the player freedom, and that's exactly the reason why Snoo said it's really hard to not have it in a way that people just one-shot pinnacle bosses, right? Because they give us that freedom to build characters that deep and strong. There's probably every single league there is something. There's a ton of builds every single league where they probably look at them and went like, "Oh, I never imagined when we designed this that it would be used this way." And for me, that's a sign of a good game, not a bad game.
Yeah, it's what I play for. It's all my enjoyment from this game comes from just
Oh,
that.
you like making builds? That's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know
Well,
that
a
about
little
you.
bit.
The other side of this conversation is if they were more strict and they made it more challenging, if they gave the bosses 10 times more health and stuff, you know exactly what happened. There'd be a ton of people screaming, what's up with the build diversity here? Nobody's playing a bunch of different builds. We can't do any build except these builds. We all have to do the meta every single league. This is actually something that currently plagues PoE 1. It's plagued it forever because the game is harder and players feel more obligated to play meta builds. Strong builds have been made that, are just like several degrees above some random good build that somebody might come up with. And PoE 2 doesn't have that much of a problem. So it is kind of, I look at this as kind of a blessing in a way in PoE 2 because that's like the pendulum swinging thing. If the game is easier, there's more build diversity. If the game is harder, there's less build diversity and less freedom to make whatever build you want. And there is no real perfect world on this. So anyway, that's basically all I got to say on it. But there's so many different ways of looking at it.
Yeah. I think one of the easiest solutions. I mean, I guess I'm just biased, but I love Delve, and I love and to be honest, like how Old Temple was set up, I love too. Like I love content that in Expedition now. I love content that when you juice it, it gets harder. But that's optional difficulty. You don't have to giga juice Expedition. You can kind of juice it, and it won't be too hard, and you'll still make good divines, right? So I like those types of things, like Delve. You just go deeper and deeper, and eventually it is like unbearably hard, right? For the average player, they're not ever going to feel that pain. So I think it's just looking for opportunities to add balance points like that. Because I've like outside of I wonder how difficult Expedition is without the bugs. But from what I've heard, it's very challenging content, which is fun.
Yep.
And then Old Temple was absurdly challenging. I actually like doing like joining group temple runs and like pushing my build last patch. So yeah.
I mean, we had for Expedition, we had what was it? Fub Gun's like 10 mirror build, just getting one shot by a rare monster, or it was a white monster or something like that.
I mean,
Expedition's crazy.
that's nothing really to do with any amount of divines invested. It's just that was. It's like, yeah, that will. I think Expedition is fun that way. It's just it's
Yeah.
exactly what Cal just said. It's super fun that way. If it wasn't that stuttery, it would be amazingly fun to have these like insanely high HP and high damage waves and everything, because it's just a limit test for a build. The only problem right now, it just becomes extremely stuttery, and then for some people apparently there's a bug, which we now know you can probably not get if you manage to shatter all the corpses. But yeah, in theory, once again, really, really good.
Just to finalize the topic around PoE 1. I mean, we have the upcoming league, Snoo. You and Miso are playing it. What are your thoughts on like just what's coming with this league? To me, one of the biggest changes for the game is the change to the colors. That's always just something that's been one of my biggest like new player gripes from playing PoE 1. What are your thoughts on that change as a veteran? And like, how excited are you for this league?
When it comes to the league mechanics, I'm not generally somebody who jumps on the hype train and wants to try the new league mechanic. People describe this as like underwater heist, or is what it looks like something, or even had somebody said earlier it looked like Temple from PoE 2 in the new game, a little bit like that. Is setting up your rooms the way you want. So as far as just the brand new mechanic, I guess, to be completely honest with you guys, I'm really not that excited about the PoE 1 league. I decided I'm gonna phone it in a little bit here. I'm actually playing back the same league start I did last time. I'm gonna enjoy the new Atlas. Actually, what I'm looking forward to more than a lot of things is just experiencing the new Atlas overhaul that they did last week, which was a very good overhaul that they did. I really enjoyed like getting my Atlas completed much more so than in leagues prior to that. And it's kind of doing just the same old same thing, like Legion farming, Nightmare map boss rushing, making good currency there. This time around, I might actually play like a totally different type of build in the end game, but I'm going to league start with something comfortable. I'm not really going to mess with the league mechanic in any major way. I'm going to be listening in, keeping my eyes out on what's going on with the crazy crafting meta stuff, the legions being able to like craft on unique items or make brand new unique items there, and then like the pseudo Hinakora locks that are coming into the league mechanic. I think it's going to be more of an interesting league as far as crafting than it will be as far as like gameplay. Yeah.
What about you, Miso?
I mean, this league, I kind of feel the same way with as Snoo about like my excitement for the league. I was pretty dang excited for Mirage this league, and I think for me at least, it's due to the fact that the Path of Exile 2 league has just been so fun that I still don't really want to stop playing it. But I feel like, again, I talked about this last podcast. I feel like for me as a content creator, I want to be in the know about what's going on, and I want to still play both Path of Exile 1 and 2 whenever the new content comes out. So I'm going to be coming in and playing it. I'm kind of deciding between whether or not I want to do a Cyclone Slayer build, or I might do a Mamba build, Peaconk transition to Mamba for my league starter. And when it comes to the mechanic itself, I actually thought it was more like kind of like Expedition, except instead of having to plan out the explosions kind of you just kind of go and explode it as you go. And in a way, it's like I kind of wish Expedition was like that, where it wasn't like such a big planning thing out, and it was more like I explode this one, mobs flow out. I explode the next one, mobs flow out. A little bit less thinking, but I am probably not going to play the new league mechanic much again. Same as Snoo. I'm not really that type of person. I'm probably going to play the new Abyss, the reworked Abyss. That's probably where I'm heading towards. But in terms of like the, I guess, crafting stuff, it seems pretty dang insane. Being able to like hit a fracturing orb and be like, hey, I'm gonna have a couple choices between which fracture I want to grab. That sounds really dang powerful. And to be honest, kind of makes me feel like this might be, if they keep this mechanic core, it might just be something most people will interact with at least once during their crafting process, because it does seem pretty dang strong. Because it's just, hey, did you want to craft something with an orb? What if you use this and you got a couple outcomes and you got to choose between those outcomes? That's what it seems like to me.
And the cool thing about stuff like that is you never know if something like that, mechanic wise, the fracture choice works its way over to PoE too. So,
Yeah.
who knows? But back to our the earlier question, Snoo. What are your thoughts on the color change? 'Cause I'm really curious about what you think of the socketable changes as a veteran.
Okay. So yeah, I mean that's a good change. The first the instinct reaction is, okay, this is good for new players who want to go from PoE 2 to PoE 1. Actually, give them a little bit of a break with especially Act 1 dealing with. I mean, it's so infuriating when you get like an upgrade piece that's like really, really good, and then it just bricks your main link, so you can't use it. So you hold it in your inventory, and then like 3 acts later, you realize, oh, I still have that piece of gear, and now it's worse than my current one, which I upgraded in the meantime. Oh, it would have been really nice to use that item back when, and now it's just trash. So I guess we'll just throw it on the ground. That's an experience everybody has, whether you're a veteran or new, and it's really frustrating as a new player. When you're a veteran, you just kind of deal with it, and it's just part of it. I guess it made me think. What do I think of like links though? Because it's a little bit of a slippery slope in a way. If they remove socket colors, maybe they remove linking too. Maybe they remove socket count too. I don't know, because that's kind of what PoE 2 is like right now. I'd be kind of curious what you guys think about that. The part of me is like, oh no, you can't change the game in a core way like this. This is integral to this game. It doesn't matter if it's like really annoying or whatever. This is part of the game. Don't mess with my game, dude. But then it's like, yeah, but is anybody gonna miss that? Is anybody gonna miss the colors being an annoying thing you deal with? So I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me though.
No, that is a very good way of looking at that. Yes, it is a core integral part of the game, so it's like it is a very slippery slope. But to your final point there, does it really break or ruin or make the experience worse? No, it makes the experience only better. But I do think you're like warning words of it is a slippery slope, because like I hadn't heard anyone ever say like, what if they remove links? What if they just make it easier to get all the back socketables, just like PoE 2? You just slap it with a perfect jeweler orb, like that is a very good point. It could be a very slippery slope. I think that this is at least from my optics as a newer PoE 1 player, as someone who like does get very frustrated in those moments you described, this is only a win. But I do like your little like warning there. Just this. Make sure GGG's having lots of meetings before they make these changes of like old systems. What about you, Miso?
I mean, it's like, again, it is a weird situation, because like in many cases when I think about Path of Exile 1, like one of the first things I think about as a new player, it's probably not the case, but as an experienced player, as somebody who has played the game for years, what some of the first stuff that I do think about is sockets, socket color, links, all those things, right? Seeing that inventory menu with all of the sockets and all the stuff, like that's like a very core and unique part of that Path of Exile 1 that when it came out, right, to me, it was like one of the big innovations of Path of Exile 1, where it was like, wow, this is a really cool way that they're handling skills and how you upgrade it. I've never seen this before in any other ARPG or any other game, in fact. This is really awesome. But then, so it's like really hard for me to even imagine a world where Path of Exile 1 gets rid of links and things like that. But that's just kind of maybe me being a boomer, can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of type of guy, where in a way, like the socket stuff, like the colors is a great change. I love that change. But then going towards links, that kind of makes me feel like, ooh, are we deforifying this game type of situation? And like, yeah, it's like a weird place where I'm sure it's like such a great, it would be a really nice QOL, but it kind of takes away the identity of Path of Exile 1, in my opinion. So while I would probably lean on the side of don't get rid of it, but maybe that's just me being a boomer. Because the way I would imagine it is like they probably won't do like the Path of Exile 2 thing where everything has like the full sockets. They might be like, okay, if your character is using a one, so imagine the Path of Exile 2 like socket system, right? Skill gem and socket system, except instead of the skill gem itself being the like header thing, it's a piece of gear. So it's like you have your chest armor, and then this chest armor will just have a certain amount of sockets based off of maybe the chest armor itself or the level. And then, if you're using a one-hander, it'll give you like a menu with like a one-handed weapon icon with 3 sockets, or like a two-handed weapon with like 6 sockets, something like that. So that's how I would imagine it being. And yeah, it feels a little bit, not very Path of Exile 1, but that's just me being more of a boomer, I think.
Okay. We've spent 90 minutes of the podcast talking about the intro of the show. We haven't gotten to any of the real main topics yet. Let's dive into rarity and farming then, if we're going to do one of these topics. What is your thoughts about rarity, Snoo? Have you done much rarity maxing this league? Do you like the state of rarity of previous patches? What direction do you want GGG to go with it?
All right, real talk. I had a 75 room temple with 160% rarity, and I was averaging about 7 or 8 divine orbs per temple. And then I got 190% rarity on my character, and I was averaging 8 or 9 divine orbs per temple. So rarity good. Yeah.
Do you like it being a stat on gear?
Yeah, I am a fan of rarity. I like it as an alternative form of end game gearing. I know a lot of people don't see it that way. They want it to play it in the power fantasy all impact. Like I've talked about this so many times in the past. It's been a while since I've talked about it. There's the power fantasy and the loot fantasy players. They're like 2 separate players on a spectrum, and people who are more along the side of the power fantasy, they love every bit of like gear upgrades and things to be towards power and making the numbers go higher, the DPS numbers go higher, the boss kill times numbers be lower. And anyone who's on the loot side of the fantasy, they don't really care how we arrive at a place. They just want more loot to drop. Whatever makes more loot drop is good. And that's kind of what I was playing off of a second ago. And so that is where the disconnect is, mainly between players who hate rarity versus players who love it. I think the nice middle ground here, because I've thought a lot about this, GGG has a brilliant way of introducing rarity and mechanics that are more on like the recipient end rather than the player side end. So, for example, juicing up your waystones to get a bunch of rarity baked into the map, or increasing the modifiers on rares to get a bunch of rarity baked into the monster, or Asmiri wisps, if we imagine the world where wisps were actually really fun and interactive. Those would all be great scalers, multiplicative scalers, to increase a loot or expedition, tailing on a bunch of additional modifiers, having the opulent modifier that you can like aim for and things like that. That has nothing to do with the player's gear and stuff. So in my opinion, if GGG can figure out a way to leverage multiple avenues of rarity on the receiving side, in the monster, in the area, things you boost in advance, the rooms and temples, things like that, as long as they keep pushing, the limit of what they can do on that end, I'm fine if we have to give up rarity on the player side. Because at the end of the day, then it just becomes one avenue of rarity. The biggest reason why I like rarity on gear is because if it was the only form of rarity, I would be like, no, you don't get rid of this. It's mandatory. We need to have it because we need more loot to drop. But if it's like 1 in 10 forms of rarity that are scaling up the loot on monsters, well, then I can more easily give it up. Because I can say, okay, fine. If I go from 10 to 9 scalars on rarity, and the one I give up happens to be the one tethered to gear, okay, we'll make the power players happy. I'll still be happy. GG's pushing the limit constantly on giving us rarity in other ways. Okay, I can deal with it. So that's my, I've thought about this a lot over time. I haven't talked about it in a while, but that's my kind of overall thoughts on all that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up with you because I don't think we've ever had any person on the podcast like remotely defend rarity. At least since 0.2. It's been a constant rarity hate fest, but I know there is that group of player base that I think you broke it down perfectly. There's the power chase and then there's the loot chase, and there are very different mentalities and approaches to the game. You have people who are currency players, and then you have people who are after killing bosses, and they just think differently. And yeah, I like that thought of enabling it. So you're not pushing yourself to insert absurd rarities. Because I remember, like, what was it, like 0.2? People were doing like 400% rarity, like farming and stuff. Like you haven't felt the need to do anything like that.
I've always taken a balanced approach for the game ever since I first came onto the scene, and people thought of me as some sort of rarity guru at a long while back. I never was somebody who was playing with like, oh, I got to play on standard league with all the legacy quant gear and stuff. I was never that person. I was like, okay, well, if we get rarity here, but we give it up here, we'll have more power, and then it only takes us X amount of time to do a map. And if we combine X amount of rarity with X amount of time to do a map, we actually get the most dividends out of that. I've tested it, with various different settings on that, and that's what I became known for, especially in the beginning when I was making content. I did a lot of rigorous testing like that, and so I've always just taken a balanced approach because that's the way I saw it. If I want the most loot I can possibly get because I'm a loot-oriented player, time is a variable in that equation. Power on the character is a variable in that equation, and then so is rarity on the character if it's allowed. But I'm not going to go off the deep end and go around with in PoE 1, like what's the Wind Ripper, which has been nerfed to the ground, some joke of an item now, and nerf my damage like 10x just because I can get a little bit extra rarity on it. Like that's an example of going off the deep end, trying to get, in PoE 2, what are like 500% rarity? Unless you're playing in groups and you're got rarity bots and things like that, it's probably not advisable, I don't think.
What about Re-Rabbit? What are your thoughts on rarity? I know you use the rarity juice, right?
Always.
Still does.
Oh, you still do? Oh, you are such a slut.
Excuse
to the
me?
meta. You can't help yourself.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? No, it's exactly what Snoo just described it as. It is a end game. It's a min max. We always have the same thing happening every single league. People optimize towards power. They want to do all content, and once the character reaches a certain threshold, then the optimization goes towards speed and rarity, right? But I still don't like rarity the way it is now, even though this league felt like the league where it seems to be the least necessary. I don't know, just from a field perspective, I've played basically zero rarity up until this character that I'm playing right now, so it didn't feel necessary at all because you still get very good currency drops even with zero rarity, it felt like. And a lot of the farming that you are doing is not really based on just raw currency drops. And it never will be, I think, also. It just, as soon as rarity affects currency, you just need to make sure that it is not that there is not like huge outliers, that people are dropping 10 times the amount of raw currency just because they added some suffixes on their gear. So I don't know. I keep flip-flopping on rarity. Overall, I think there's a much more elegant way to solving rarity in PoE 2, and that is just tying it to content difficulty rather than me just throwing divines at a character and then being able to add 150% rarity on the character. I think there's just a more elegant way of doing that. I don't know. I'm rolling with the punches, and you might call that being meta adjacent.
So
I don't
I got a
care.
follow-up question. Can I ask a follow-up question for you? What if
No.
GG came out with a mid-league patch and they introduced a brand new boon, 10% increased player rarity permanent to your character? How would you feel then?
Oh, dude, he like look how upset he is. Like like the blood left his face. He's just.
I'm sorry, I had
Do
to.
I seem upset?
Did you see the comment in chat that said all that rarity and 0 boons? Feels bad, man.
That's what made me think
Haha,
of
funny.
that actually.
Super, haha, very
I saw
funny.
that comment. I thought of it.
I
then.
dropped a Hinikora's lock yesterday, by the way. Haha,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
funny.
Wasn't that 2 days ago? Jeez, you did you
I
get
don't
another
know.
one?
The days are, I don't know.
The
It's
days are
all,
blurring. That much expedition
it's-
is blurring.
it's all becoming one. But yeah, if you could, that's actually what people are saying, by the way, in chat sometimes. Which I'm not sure at this point if it's rage baiting or not. But people coming to the chat and being like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you have enough rarity to get the 10 rune remnant?"
What if it's what
I'm not
if
sure.
you need negative rarity to farm it? So you could
Mhm.
be screwing yourself over, dude. Got to go
Yeah.
lower.
I'll take negative rarity. I know it's not a topic of conversation anymore, but negative rarity is the same as going positive rarity.
Oh yes, it's the exact
Yeah.
yes.
Because we had
Yeah.
that whole discussion. I know there was some discussion last leak around that with like some content creators. I don't remember what it was, but
You're adjusting your rarity to get more currency. Okay, like it's the
Yep.
exact same. The
Exactly.
outcome is the same. So
no, but overall with the whole rarity discussion, it's always going to be important to mention that only a fraction of the knowledge, not a fraction of the of the currency you make within a league comes from raw currency drops. I have like 2,000 divines on my pilfering. I have my tracking scroll from the Ange is 100 times, or I don't know, like an insane amount more. So yes, rarity is a thing, but it's not the only thing deciding whether you make currency or not. By far not.
so you're no longer on the because I think in like 0.3 or 4 you were at one point like get rid of it, just get it off of gear.
No,
now.
I'm still saying get rid of it, but that
Oh, you're
doesn't
still
mean
getting
I'm
rid of it
like
on gear?
out of principle not building rarity now. No, it's like I'm
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Miso?
I mean, I think that for rarity, it's an interesting topic because I think the tone for rarity kind of really shifted once we started. I think in 0.4, when they really made it so that the league mechanics were dry, like the drops from the leading mechanics themselves really started driving the amount of income that you're making from farming. I think in 0.1, 0.2, most of your money was coming from the raw divs and the raw tinks. And that was where rarity was the biggest problem. And then in 0.4, not only did they make rarity less effective, which I think Mark mentioned that as a thing that they did purposefully, while they figured out a solution for rarity, they just lowered its effectiveness. In 0.4, they did that, but also made it so that the league mechanics themselves were just the main drivers of your income and your currency. So as a result of that, rarity has become less important over time. And then that's when I think the tune for rarity really started shifting, being like, maybe rarity isn't all that bad. But I do think that is still the main issue for me about rarity is that it is something that will never not benefit your character as long as it can do the content, which we know is fairly low in terms of its ceiling right now. So if you can fit the rarity in your character most of the time, you should, because it's just going to benefit you no matter what. It's not going to be a thing that will hurt you in the long run. Now, and then also that brings rise to the builds that can run rarity versus can't, right? But overall, right now, I actually am fairly neutral on rarity. It could stay, it could not stay, but I'm definitely leaning on the side where I would like it to go. And I think that this league, I think in 0.4, rarity was like, yeah, I don't care about it. But this league, actually, I do think there were quite a few farms where rarity was pretty important. Like, for example, I think Breach, you weren't really far. Like, if you wanted to go for that uber juiced raw tank farm, which a lot of people were going with, you would be missing out a lot if you didn't have rarity. I think Delirium is another one where if you're getting a lot of raw tinks, and if you don't have it, you're missing out on a good bit. Abyss, I'd say, 50-50-ish, where you are getting a lot from lights, but if you did choose your rarity and the map rarity and effectiveness, you're also getting a lot of raw tinks. It's never making up the majority of it, but other than maybe like the breach farm, for example, when you're not going for high blood, but it is at some point, it was a very significant amount of your money. Now, though, it's like an interesting thing where rarity, the effectiveness starts going down as the league goes on, because the value of the div just keeps going down and down and down. And that's mostly what you're juicing with your rarity gear. So that is like a very interesting relationship there as well. But where I stand on it, I still think that rarity is something that I would like off the gear, because it always just feels like I'm missing something if I'm not running rarity. Like when I was running Sims, I tried uber juicing effectiveness, which is what usually people recommend if you want to break even on Sims or maybe get some profit. But I tried that, and having no rarity on my gear, I didn't find that to be the case at all. So it's like the difference between sustaining Sims and not sustaining Sims, right? And that feels bad because my build actually can't run rarity. So there are still situations where rarity does come in and make it feel kind of bad. But overall, again, I think starting in 0.4, it started to bring into question about whether or not rarity was as bad as we thought it was before.
Yeah. And just to give my stance on it now, I don't think I've ever stacked rarity. So I was always like from the stance of remove it because it's not healthy for the economy, but I don't think that's like as negative as it was before. So like at this point, like I don't mind if it exists on gear, just because it enables the people like Snoobae and those people that like enjoy using rarity. It doesn't impact my experience anymore. The only way it impacts my experience is when it negatively impacts the economy and I can't keep up because I'm not doing that. And that's just not the case at all right now, in my opinion. Before we move into build of the week, actually, I'm curious what your
hold up before we go leaving this. One thing that did also pop up in my mind is none of us play group play. None of us.
Well, that's why that was literally what I was about to ask Snoobae. Is Snoo? I'm curious what your thoughts are on group play, because group play is an entire other element to this discussion, and it makes the whole argument like that's like one of the big reasons why to get rid of it, is because group play is just insane. The difference between what you make in currency from groups versus solo is it's not comparable. What are your thoughts on
and more specifically rarity bots and like rarity mules, like people who are just there to boost rarity and not even be like a whole coordinated group together having like different roles, versus just like, hey, I'm gonna run solo, but you guys are gonna be here to leech, but give me a ton of loot.
5 rarity bots,
Like in 0.4 in Temple, I'm sure it really exacerbated the already major problem of raw loot being just dwarfing the value of everything else. At which point the economy is just on its last legs for the longest time until finally it begins to catch up, and Omens of Light are worth 100 divines or something at the end of that league because nobody was farming them. But my confidence in answering that question really stems from PoE 1, not PoE 2. And I haven't done a lot of group play in PoE 1, very little of it actually, but I have paid a lot of attention to what group players deal with in PoE 1. There's a great deal of headache in setting things up, and the argument in favor of group player rarity being okay in that game, at least, is balance-wise, they don't actually make way more currency than a solo player who knows what he's doing. And they're kind of pigeonholed into one aspect of gameplay, trying to min-max raw loot, compared to a solo player trying to play the same strategy. It seems like an unfair advantage, but given that there's so many strategies making currency, it feeds the market with a ton of uniques really quickly. Players are able to get their builds online more quickly. This is like, I'm kind of giving a little bit of a devil's advocate argument in favor of group player rarity. I don't actually know the real truth of it in PoE 2 because I haven't really looked or listened to what group players are experiencing, especially in 0.5. I don't actually know the balance of it. So maybe you guys can inform me a little bit on that. But generally speaking, people just kind of overlook the value of it, the upside of it, which is more raw loot means everybody is getting their builds online faster because access to things like, especially high chase items like Headhunter, Mage's Blood, things like that are becoming more readily available. Players who participate in group play create more items in the market while not necessarily making way more currency themselves because things are split in certain ways and there's all kind of like administrative BS you got to deal with, for setting all that stuff up, and there's a ton of extra work behind the scenes to like planning it and all that stuff. So, there's just some arguments on there. So yeah, I don't know where you guys stand, but those are kind of my thoughts.
I honestly I have not looked into group play ever for both PoE 1 or PoE 2. I just know that the rarity bot things happen. So I'm pretty indifferent. I do like some of the points you just pointed out that like it does flood the economy with more uniques. That's just, beneficial for a lot of players. I didn't realize in PoE 1 it wasn't like when I watch the PoE 1 juicers, I just see clips of it, right? It looks absurd to me. So I just assumed they were making absurdly amount more divines, but does it sound like from what you just said, that doesn't be the case. So, doesn't bother me. If that's how it works in PoE 1, if that's how it's functioning in PoE 2, it doesn't bother me, but I don't know if that's actually how it is. Do you guys know anything about group play right now?
I rarely look at what other people are like doing. I don't know if it doesn't impact my fun in playing the game. I don't care. I hear people screaming or yelling about group play and everything. I don't know.
Reddit is always upset about group play, so I just feel like it's bad. But
I honestly I don't like. I'm not even saying keep it or remove it or whatever. I don't have an opinion because I don't really care what others are doing with their gameplay as long as it's not negatively impacting my fun playing the game or whatever. I don't care what other people are doing. I'm just doing what I'm doing. So,
well, if anything, it's making my league cheaper. So hell yeah, group play based on what Snoop
as long
just
as you don't
said,
feel obligated to do it.
Exactly.
Last time I felt obligated to do it, like I felt like an idiot for not playing group play, was 8-man bail runs in Diablo 2. That was the last time I felt like
right.
you'd be a freaking moron not to be playing in a group right now if you're chasing experience that way. So we've never seen anything that egregious in PoE, I don't think, that would make me feel that bad, that much FOMO about it. I don't know. I feel like a lot of players kind of they're lacking perspective maybe, or they're just blowing it out of proportion. To anyone out there who played Diablo 2 bail runs, like that's an example of group play run amok.
What's that game?
It's one of those other games we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
any final thoughts? Sorry.
I think for me, when it comes to group play, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't affect my gameplay, so I don't really care about it too much. But from a game design perspective, I don't know if it's very healthy to incentivize a playstyle where one person's like, yeah, let me multi-box, or like, let me get a couple computers and get all these characters into one map to just boost my loot.
Yeah.
Or like, let me hire some people to just stand there to boost my farm. Like, I don't think that's a good gameplay design. Like, I don't have a problem with people actually going in and just, being an actual group of human beings playing the game together and doing the map together and designing a party around it. But it does get into weird territory from a gameplay design perspective when you're starting to make a reward structure where you're, as a solo player, trying to hire people to stand there and do nothing, or you're just having multi-client, multi-boxing to get more loot. It just feels a little bit weird there.
I agree with that. Definitely. The multi-boxing thing, yeah, that's ugly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's dive into. See, now I'm going to be self-conscious about saying let's dive into build of the week after that montage Miso did. I don't know why. But let's dive into build of the week. You have my build ready, Miso?
Yeah, I do. Give me a second. Let me pull it up here. Alrighty.
I will be featuring a build from Kadachi. This is a little bit of a weird build of the week showcase, so it's kind of got like a little story to it. But Kadachi made a I just played this build and I just forgot concussive runes. What's the name of the skill? I just played this build.
Conductive runes.
Conductive runes. So I was streaming this build a few days ago, or like over the last week, and Kodachi was watching me play it. It is a really cool rune. It's essentially like a trap build. It plays a lot like a trap assassin from Diablo 2. People say it plays a lot like traps from PoE 1 when you get it set up correctly. And what's cool about this is when I was setting up my journey, I was doing on a Pathfinder. And Kodachi was like, when the mechanics started to come online, he said he wanted to do it on a ritualist, which I had been saying like was probably the best way to mathematically play it. And what's cool about it is this just shows how like fun PoE2 build making is. We're both doing essentially the same archetype, the same skill, but it ended up like reaching like completely different ways of enabling the skill. I was using it to where like the runes were exploding, but he's using it to where the runes are just hitting really hard with a single rune, and then he's pushing bosses and enemies into the runes with Spear Field, which is just like a completely different approach to it. So like whenever there's like like the problem is the runes, you don't have control over where they spawn, but if you can push them into the runes, you know, that solves that problem. So it's a really cool skill. It's a little bit underpowered. It's a lot of fun though. But I think this just shows like the creativity that build makers can have. You know, my solution, like our solutions to solving this really bad skill was completely different, and his approach is just so creative, like pushing the mobs into the runes. That's just so cool. So yeah, shout out to Kodachi. And one thing that like we don't really talk about build making etiquette or like anything like that ever, because it's like kind of weird and awkward, but there's a lot of drama that goes into build making and stuff behind the scenes between creators. And Kodachi saw me doing this build and me like working it out, and he dove into it after I like already like figured out some stuff on an already leveled character with like way more divines than I did, and he could have released his build guide like days before me and like revealed the tech and all the cool stuff that was going on with it, and he was like, I'm not going to do that until you release your build because your build inspired it. So shout out to him for that little like build maker etiquette. I don't know what you want to call that. You don't see that too often, I guess. But, you know, it's just cool. It just shows how creative people can be. And Kodachi's a regular in the chat, so wanted to give him some love. Sorry, it's a little bit of a story build of the week. But, you know, it is also a very cool build.
Build would be
Kodachi's a
perfect
great
if
build maker.
the traps, runes on the ground you put on the ground, if they would be shooting lightning out of them. That would be... I don't know if any game has ever done that before. That would be perfect.
Well, they do shoot lightning out of them. They do
Yeah?
lightning damage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you know, like in a more
in my
Diablo 2
setup
way.
with the yes, it's not exactly trap assassin. Unfortunately,
you're talking about like lightning trap from like PoE 1. Yeah.
It's really cool though, because you called it like the traps in build, and it's it's perfect. We need more of that. When we got lightning spear, I was kind of hopeful as well to get that build, but it didn't turn out to be exactly like Javazon. But maybe
I think you could
soon.
make this like
I'm hopeful for
trap
the Templar
assassin on a Lich. I think if you AoE scaled this on a Lich, because if you watch my variation, I have a little bit of AoE scaling and it pops a little bit more. If you Abyssal Lich, if you did AoE scale or on Titan, maybe you can make it like a little bit more spectacular. But it's a really
probably
awkward
lose
skill.
out on a lot of the damage then, but
I mean, we're both scaling it with Rakiatas and Garkons, so you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, what's fun about this build is the skill specifically has the attack tag, but it's one of those skills that doesn't scale off a weapon. So it doesn't matter if you have the best DPS two-hander in the game, it doesn't scale it at all. So we're using a Widow Hail cheese, where you have a quiver with just a lot of added flat damage, and you're amping it by 250%, so that's how you scale. Like, it's a really cool skill, but it's just got those, like, you know, functionally bad holes in it where, you know,
wacky.
It's not ever going to be meta right now. It's wacky, yes. It's wacky, yes.
Yeah. There's also a AoE scaling with Pillar of the Cage God, Korahor, who we've talked about quite a few times on this channel. He has a 2,000 intelligence character, I think Chayula, that he scales some insane AoE on with Pillar of the Cage God.
That's cool.
Yep. So
I was hoping people were doing pillar builds with the new rune mastered pillar.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. And it's funny because he uses Spear Field to push the enemies into the ruins. For me in 0.2, I had this build where I was putting down the spear fields and then using Wind Serpent's Fury to push the enemies into the spear fields. So it's kind of an interesting and funny, I guess, different take on it. But yeah, that's cool. Glad we were able to get this build in. For me, the build that I featured is this build by Flicker Slide, which is a Grip of Kulamok exploding auto bomber build. I thought this was super cool because, I mean, I didn't know this, but Grip of Kulamok has kind of like a, Herald effect on it. And he just scales this to a point where, he hits the enemies. And as long as there are enemies in the nearby vicinity, they just end up blowing up into this nice little herald chain. It's just it's pretty dang specific. You need a pretty specific Grip of Kulamok for it. I think he was saying that like after he bought out the first couple, it ended up getting up to like a couple thousand divs for one of these grips. So definitely not the the most affordable build. But as you can see right here, it takes advantage of this abyssal wasting you inflict. Also, it gives targets 10% chance to explode on death as a 10th of their physical damage, right? And he scales this along with, I think, the other one that ignites enemies. With the ritualists, with I think ingenuity, just to get these numbers super high. So basically, it's 100% to explode, and 100%. Oh, it's fire res. That's what it was. Gives enemies very, very low fire res, negative 247% fire res. So pretty dang insane. Oh, yeah. Very low fire res, and every time he hits an enemy, they kind of explode for this little nice green pop. You know me, I like visually pleasing builds. This is a really nice, cool little visually pleasing Herald chaining build.
Yeah, this build's sick. I saw this a few days ago, and yeah, this build is freaking nuts. Yeah, Ritualist is cool. The way the breakpoints you can hit with the ring scaling is super fun.
Another one of those situations where the ascendancy as a whole is not that great, but there's that one node that makes it into, a really good ascendancy.
Yeah. Yeah. The rings are really good. And it boosts your amulet too, which is really nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we actually have 3 builds of the week this time. Hell yeah. Because of Snoobae, though.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You guys
said we're going to be going
to feature your own build. So, yeah. So you just want me to talk about it?
Right here, do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I made a Twister build. I know people would find that hard to believe, but yeah, another build for Twister. Fourth time around, I guess. There's a new ascendancy called Spirit Walker. I got a lot of people excited for a couple different reasons, either minion related stuff or Twister related stuff. And this ascendancy for Twister is able to scale an extreme amount of projectile speed. That's why you see the projectiles look like they're going ridiculously fast. Extremely low cost, just a couple of ascendancy points to get that sort of crazy scaling, as well as projectile count. In the latest iterations of build, I decided to push the breakpoints on AoE there. And I'm not exactly sure in that footage if it's either 0.7 or 1 meter twisters, which are some really fat twisters. So when you have them that big and that fast, that's just wreaking havoc on and off screen, 4 or 5 screens away even. Especially in tight corridor maps like what you see there. Even open maps, there's no safe place for the monsters to stand. We have a few new toys this time around that really amped up Twister, especially for Spirit Walker, called Olroth's Conviction. Put that in the new Ascendancy Point one, and it removed some of the dramatic annoyance of having to dodge roll to unlock that projectile speed modifier. That's the conditional for this ascendancy. You have to dodge roll to get the crazy prog speed, but you only have to do it 1 out of every 3 Twister attacks in this case. So there's like so many different tech things going on here. I've made videos on the key aspects of it all throughout this league, and I probably updated my own build like 10 different times in pretty significant ways, which is kind of one of the if I'm trying to be objective, in my opinion, like the best thing about me as far as a build maker is sticking with the same build that I league start with and just taking it to the moon. And then really exploring firsthand like all kinds of different weird tech things I can do with it. And yeah, the AoE scaling was a big part of it. The taming ring was also introduced that made it way easier to get the elemental grounds. And it's just a very, very powerful Twister build. I don't think Spirit Walker is necessarily the best Twister Ascendancy right now. But yeah, I incorporated a lot of old tech in there like I used to use before with Trinity and charge regulation, frenzy charges, power charges, getting all the passive buffs there, salvo support for crazy high projectile count. It's a fun skill. It scales off of damn near everything. All the damage modifiers, crit modifiers. It also scales off skill effectuation, proc speed, AoE. It just almost every scaler you can imagine. And that's what makes this skill so unbelievably overpowered. Is that it just scales off too many things. And yeah. But it's okay. It's never gonna get nerfed, right? I mean, we don't need to throw any suppositions out there like that. No.
And if you actually hate looking at the game that you're playing, you can just
Yeah.
ju-
Yeah. There are a couple
The only thing you'll
MTXs that
do-
are a little easier on the eyes, but I'm doing a scientific experiment to see how long I can play this
Yeah.
before I go clinically blind.
You did there was a big clip of you last league with you going over just visual clarity in the game, and you kind of showed it also. That was last league, right? You were also on the
Couple
Twister
leagues
build
ago,
last
yeah.
league, and you showed like the ridiculousness of the whole visual clarity conversation at that point, and it was yeah. I think it's always going to be a point of discussion in PoE too, because I think it's always going to be baked into the cake that there's going to be builds that, surprisingly, when you have a build that tries to destroy the whole screen at one point, there has to be some type of animation for it. And whether it is a million comets or a million twisters or a million arcs or whatever, it's gonna be baked into the cake. So to everyone saying like, "Oh, yeah, I hope they do something about the visual clarity," I think that's always gonna be a thing. It's always gonna be that way. So
Yeah.
They give us maximum creative potential, and there's the ever expanding power creep that you can expect in a developing game. It's just, yeah, it's inevitable. I like to think that the game's gonna have the reins on held back a little bit by the developers for a longer period of time, but it seemed to already be kind of an outlandish territory here with what you see on the screen and the other builds you showed too. I mean, they had their own issues with visual clarity as well. But I always say, if you can tell what's going on in your build, then your build's not very good. Like, you're supposed to not be able to tell what's going on. And it's also supposed to not matter, because if you can't tell what's going on, that means everything's getting hit by everything, which means everything's already dying. And so everything will be okay. And that is the pinnacle of the gaming experience for this game anyway.
really sells it while you're saying that, while also seeing your loot filters. It's obstructing the rest of what we were seeing on the
Yeah.
screen. It's just
Oh,
a loot
okay. This was
filter
my
almost.
first time playing Expedition. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In
That
the
makes
tempo,
sense.
it looks fine.
It's just a perfect icing. Perfect icing. Yeah,
What are
I
your
had to
thoughts,
adjust my
Stu,
loot
on-
filter as well a lot of times after going into Expedition.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I thought. Yeah. That was bothering me. I probably would have had to have done that eventually. Snoo, what are your thoughts on whirling assault mobility?
Oh, I thought you
Do
were
you
gonna
like
say,
that?
what are your thoughts on Farmer's loot filter?
Whirling
Oh,
slash
no, not
mobility,
that.
you mean?
Oh yeah, whirling slash. Sorry, the
Yeah.
using it as a
I thi-
mobility skill.
I think it's really cool, an alternative way to move. I like it a lot personally. It's not for everybody. Some people don't like, getting stuck on walls or having to dodge roll to get off the wall or run through corridors. So it's very sticky in that way. It transforms the WASD gameplay back into mouse or click to move, because you're guiding it with your mouse. And so this turns a lot of people off too, because they really, really, really want to play WASD. But those of you who know my content for a while know that I'm practically anti-WASD on a personal level. I don't like it very much at all. I prefer the click to move way. So for me, it's a way to kind of cheat the system, where I'm playing WASD, but I'm actually playing click to move. in reality. So it's kind of a funny thing. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I could make it really dramatic, but I'll hold back, I guess. It's just I like it. I don't know why people hate it so much.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool to have alternate ways to, just like you said. I agree. Thanks for coming on, Stu. This was a fantastic podcast. I don't know why it took us so long to get us on, but like it was just like the perfect storm of the PoE 1 League and then Twisters just finally being meta to get you on. So thanks for coming on. Where can the people find you, and what are you going to be up to?
Well, 3 places mainly. We got Twitch, YouTube, and the Discord. So the Discord link, I don't know, you can find them pretty easily going on Twitch, but basically Snoobae85 is the handle there. YouTube is dedicated primarily to making videos, tech-related videos, farming videos, build guide related stuff, and then Twitch is for streaming. I'm also streaming on YouTube though, and then the Discord's for people who are fans of the build or just in general, nice community, whether you're PoE 1 or PoE 2 at this point. It's pretty active stuff and people helping each other out with builds and strategies or just asking questions, just hanging out, all the good things.
Oh yeah. Well, good luck with the PoE 1 League. I hope you have an absolute blast with it. Let's go ahead and get our outros going. Dead Rabbit.
Bye. I stream too. I'll be playing the hardcore league in almost exactly 1 week now. I even canceled a family event for it just yesterday.
Oh really?
Because I realized yesterday, oh shit, the timing. So yeah, I'm very dedicated still to PoE 2. So next week, Timmy's hardcore private league starting. So still don't know what build I'm gonna be playing. I want to play something that I haven't played before, but still want to perform pretty well. I was thinking I'm not gonna spoiler. I'm let's see. Let's just say I might be going very close into Kalturak territory.
Interesting.
growing-
And
Got
it's not
some good
Stoics,
news.
by the way. I'm not
You're
playing
growing a
Stoics.
really
I'm
big
hardcore.
mustache.
Oh, I can.
I'm
I'm
guessing.
physically
I'm
unable to.
guessing. Witch Hunter or
This
Gembling.
is
I
the
don't
most
know.
I've got.
He's doing mercenary. The only thing I can think of that's Kaltorek territory would be mercenary. I don't know.
He's playing.
Maybe
He's
playing
playing
Witch
him
Hunter.
right now.
This is the most I've got.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah, but there is a specific ascendancy, Cal, that you.
Yeah, Witch Hunter. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Or Titan. Witch Hunter. Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, okay, take it away, Miso.
Yeah, Miso X Shuru on everything. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm all over the place, baby. You can find me everywhere. Yeah, finally got our voices, so awesome, super great. Before we head off into the Path of Exile 1 League, which I will be
Perfect.
playing either Cyclone Slayer or Assassin Mamba. So that's gonna be a good
How
time.
is that?
What?
Cyclone Slayer, dude. Let's
Cyclone
go.
Slayer. I mean, look, Spin to Win is a classic.
People call
and
it
it's great.
basic.
No,
I
no,
like
no,
that
it's
was
so
that was
bad.
my jam.
It's so
You-
good.
who-
Rolling
that
Slash is spin to
basic?
win.
Yeah, right?
No, not the same. Not the same. Cyclone is the only way to go. And hopefully, when it comes
Yeah.
to Path of Exile 2, it's not complete garbage.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I'll also be
I just-
playing in the THC League. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want the Templar to come, and it should have a skill called Blessed Hammer, so we can just get the spinny hammers going on the Templar. That's all I
hammered
need.
Hammered in.
No, not what? No, that was an idea. It came to me in a dream.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Sorry,
probably it's
Cal.
completely different from Hammered. It's completely different.
Yep.
Well, I'll also be playing in the Hardcore Private League. I'll probably be streaming it, so it'll be a lot of fun to see me and Rabbit die at some point during this league. So make sure you guys hang out. We are potentially going to be experimenting with the format of the show. We might start highlighting a viewer comment next week. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Leave comments based off the discussions we had, or maybe ask a question, and we might bring it up next week. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, thanks for Snoobae for coming on. I will sorry I was a little bit out of it this episode. It's 3 a.m. when this podcast started, and I had like no sleep before this. So if I was a little bit annoying or obnoxious, I'm sorry. But yeah, love you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
What an outro. What an outro.